All right, everybody. Well, hello and welcome. I am the Kodiak Broncos Podcast, and today we are here to talk about why the Broncos will have the best defense in the NFL in 2025. But before we get into it, I'm just going to say a couple things. First of all, I am going to wait a little bit. I'm going to wait until more people come in. I am going to wait until we have more people that are, doing whatever and, drop it in here and whatnot. So make sure you join the chat as well because I am really, really excited about this one. All right, looks like we're starting to get some people in here. What's up? So this is going to be a live, basically, video of my style where I talk about where I do like my slides and everything. But I just want to make sure that I am interacting with you guys. The reason I'm doing this is because I did have a busy day today and I didn't get to pump out a video that I wanted to regarding, why we're going to have the best defense in the NFL in 2025. So I figured I'd do it tonight. And I figured that better late than never, if anything, if that's anything that you guys want to hang your hat on. But yeah, so ultimately, this is going to be a live version of what I do. So here you go. If you wanted a behind the scenes look at what I do and how my things come about, how my videos come about as well. This is basically how I'm feeling about the Denver Broncos going into the year of 2025. So just looking at our talent up and down the roster, we are just absolutely loaded. We are absolutely loaded with talent. And, like I said, my thing for this slide is called Need I Say More? Because honestly, it's like, do I need to say anything more about what we have, with our defense, with everything that we have as well, talent wise, because we are loaded. Like if you're just being completely honest with yourself, we are absolutely loaded. And I'm really, really happy that, our, what's it called? Our, thing has turned out that way. Yes, I agree, Brandon, that we got to avoid injuries. And, it's volatile year to year. It is volatile. Like obviously during the offseason, we've done all the right things. During the offseason, we've done everything we could. But, we've had some pretty good injury fortunes since Sean Payton took over as a coach. And I'm hoping that continues. It's not sticky year to year or anything like that. But yeah. So, hey, Jeremy. Hey, Andy. Just want to say what's up to y'all. Jade Bear mentioned, of course, absolutely. And subscribe to mention Jeremy Code. Jeremy, if you want to hop on, I do have the StreamYard link in the Discord if you are interested in that. But yeah, ultimately, I am, just going to try to make this a live video where I talk to the chat, but I also want to do like my style as well. So either way, yeah, just looking at the talent, this defense is absolutely absurd. Like we literally have no holes in our game. We are absolutely loaded at every step, at every level of the defense as well. So to be completely honest, I don't know what the floor is for this defense, but the ceiling is very, very high. The floor, I feel like, is pretty decent as well because when bottom feeders came into our house last year, we absolutely beat the piss out of them. I think about Atlanta, I think about Carolina, and even though Atlanta's not really a bottom feeder, you know what I'm saying. When sputtering teams came in here, we beat them up. So just looking at our edge room, Nick Bonito, Jonathan Cooper, Jonah Ellis, and this tweet does not include Q Robinson as well. Same with Dondre Tillman. And those are two guys who, if they need to, yeah, of course, Brandon, we absolutely killed the Saints. So if there are two guys who, let's say Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper need a playoff, I don't think anybody is going to bat an eye that, what's his name is going to be in there, that Jonah Ellis is going to be in there. I don't think anybody's going to bat an eye that Dondre Tillman is going to be in there or anything like that. So, yeah, just looking at that, that's absolutely absurd. And then you have on the interior defensive line, this is where we start to get really, really strong. So as far as our early down front, DJ Jones and Malcolm Roach are the two guys that do really, really well. But on perfect. Yes, of course. Thank you. I will do the same on my TV to get that watch time up. But so yeah, looking at the interior and pushing the pocket, and the guys will push the pocket on passing downs. We have Zach Allen, John Franklin Myers, and Malcolm Roach as well was used in that role some this past year, although he's mainly a run defender. But yeah, so our interior defensive line is going to be very, very strong this year. I expect it to be rotated. I expect Savion Jones to be rotated in as well. Obviously kind of our JFM replacement. And keep in mind, all these guys kind of have something to prove. Like DJ Jones did get his extension. I think Allen is going to get his extension this offseason as well. But yo, what's up, Payton? How you doing? Either way, a lot of these guys also have something to prove. Like DJ Jones is obviously signed his extension, but JFM contract year. Zach Allen, I guess you could call it a contract year. So Malcolm Roach contract year as well. And that was a big reason why I wanted us to go defensive line in the first round of the 2025 NFL draft. But we didn't. We went Savion Jones in the third round. And you know what? I'm really happy with that because I feel like Jade Barron and our Savion Jones is better than, Derek Harmon plus whatever corner would have been there in the third round as well. So to be completely honest, if there is one thing you got to be concerned about, it is our inside linebacker room. I love Greenlaw. He's not a guarantee, but I'm expecting big things from him. I think that signing a guy like Greenlaw is really going to change the fortunes of our defense because, to be completely honest, we had a lot of struggles against good teams this past year. We had a lot of struggles against, the competent teams. We had a lot of struggles against, the Bills, the Bengals, and the Chargers. To be completely honest, because the interior can you give me info that I can use for my next Broncos video? I mean, why not? Why not stick until the end and you'll see. But like I was saying, inside linebacker is the one area of question that we have about this defense. So Zach Allen will be a free agent after this year. Alex Singleton will too. Yes, Zach Allen will be, but I expect him to get extended. And Alex Singleton is 31, and he is coming off an ACL tear. And if he does get beat out by Drew Sanders, I don't think he's going to get re-signed just flat out. But he can still be a reliable locker room piece for this team going into 2025. Regardless, this kind of plays off what I was saying about Singleton. If it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Sanders and Singleton as well, because the inside linebacker 2 spot is going to be the weakest point of our defense. Like if you're just looking at all 11 starters on our defense, inside linebacker 2 spot is the weakest part. There's no doubt about that. But Greenlaw, once again, he's not a full-fledged guarantee, but I expect him to, play with his hair on fire. I expect him to bring a lot of intensity to our defense. I expect him to bring a lot of what he brought to the 49ers to our defense as well. And let's keep in mind, 49ers fans said that Greenlaw played with his hair on fire. 49ers fans said that when Greenlaw was out, they were a completely different defense. And that really came to light in the 2023 Super Bowl when they were tasked with covering Travis Kelce without Drake Greenlaw. So, everything that we had regarding, the inside linebacker room this past year, Cody Barton, Justin Sternad, like the reason we could not get inside linebacker help is because we didn't have a lot of resources to do so. So we didn't have, those draft picks to fire away on at linebacker, at safety, at tight end, at, those other spots on the team that are low value positions because, we obviously had to shore up the edge room. We had to shore up defensive back and everything like that. So, yeah. Now, this is where I get really, really excited. Look at this secondary, man. Look at this secondary. So if you're just going from top to bottom, this is the NFL's best secondary. If you're just going from top to bottom and you get Patrick Surtain, Jade Barron, Riley Moss, Jaquan McMillan, Chris Abrams-Drain, Brandon Jones, Talanoa Hufanga, like what? I am bricked up talking about that. And I think that the Broncos will be the best team in the NFL, bar none, next year in the dime package where you have all those defensive backs on the field. And, PJ Locke is someone who should be mentioned in here, even though I don't think PJ Locke was very good at all on money downs, especially this past year, even though he proved to be an enormous liability, especially when it mattered most. I think that now, since we'll be able to deploy him as his ideal role, as his what is his natural position, which is, a third safety or anything like that, in that role as well, we will now be able to, get past the idea that he was a liability on this team. But yeah, so looking at this cornerback room, it is sexual. Like, I don't understand how you can't get bricked up. And one thing that I do want to say is that I feel like a lot of people have been dunking on Jaquan McMillan since we drafted Jade Barron, which isn't invalid. But to be completely honest, like, you just got to realize that Jaquan McMillan, I feel like he had a really, really good last year. For a scheme that puts so much on our corners' plates, for a scheme that puts so much on, trying to leave our corners on islands and letting everybody else do their thing, it requires your secondary to hold up quite a bit. And you know what? There were guys that did not rise to that challenge last year. I'm mainly thinking about Levi Wallace and PJ Locke as well. But the other guys who rose to the challenge, I think, were Riley Moss, Jaquan McMillan, and yeah. So Payton says, if the Broncos make the playoffs, can we do a watch party together? I mean, if you're talking in person or on YouTube, I'm down regardless. But yeah. So when I think about this secondary that we have going into next year, there's just no holes. Like, who are you going to target? That's my question. I assume we're going to use Talanoa Hufanga as our box safety, and we're going to have Brandon Jones be our free safety because he did really, really good in coverage. Even though Dolphins fans were saying that, Brandon Jones isn't really someone that you want in coverage. But to be completely honest, I just really think that Brandon Jones really changed the fortunes of our safety position this past year. And I think that had um, things turned out differently for PJ Locke, we would not have needed to sign Talanoa Hufanga. But yeah, so point being, our defense is just absolutely loaded. Our defense is absolutely loaded, and I really, really like, the roster construction. And the only thing I will say that we don't have a true nose tackle. We don't have a true plug and play guy who, when we're getting run over against those physical offensive lines, we don't have a guy that we can just be like, all right, this is our dude who can, really push the pocket, really move the pocket, and avoid us getting run over or anything like that. But I will say that improving the second level will really, really help us with that. And I think improving the second level will be really good for this team in general, just because, Barton, Stranad, and Locke were painful last year, especially in run support against those physical teams. So, yeah, real quick, I'm going to take a sip of water. But, yeah, let me know. Who are you most excited to see on the defensive side of the ball next year? Because I mean, this team is just absolutely stacked. It's absolutely loaded. And, I'm going to give you guys a little bit more time to just look over this absolutely amazing slide where we've got just all the talent on the defensive side of the ball listed. And you know what? Join the chat. Join the chat. Yeah, Hufanga. I'm really excited to see him as well, Brandon, because, he was a guy who played so well when he was on the field with the 49ers. And I feel like with a guy like Hufanga, who's been often injured, I feel like our strength and conditioning staff has definitely earned the right for a reclamation project for a guy who necessarily hasn't been the greatest model of health. So yeah, him, Greenlaw, and Ingram, I think we've earned the right as a strength and conditioning staff to, sign those guys and rely on our strength and conditioning staff to figure it out going forward. But yeah, and how can I grow my YouTube channel? I mean, yeah, just keep at it. Just keep working hard. I mean, I only have 630 subscribers, so I don't know if I'm really the best one to ask about this. But you know what? People, just be you and keep plugging away at it. That's really all I got to say regarding that matter. So yeah. All right, we're going to go to our next slide right here. So we have a loaded coaching staff, and Sean Payton is not a defensive head coach. And if you look at a lot of the things that the Saints had back in 2012 to 2014, it actually was really troubling what they had done on the defensive side of the ball. And it was really unfortunate that it did turn out that way for a large part of Drew Brees' tenure with the New Orleans Saints. But when things go bad on the defensive side of the ball, he's very quick to adjust. Sean Payton is very quick to adjust when things are not, going well with the team or whatever. If we make the playoffs, I will get you to 1,000. Oh, appreciate you. Yeah, but either way, so thinking about our coaching staff, like Sean Payton, as I was saying, he is not a defensive head coach, but he is very quick to adjust. I think about the Miami disaster that we had in 2023 or whatever. Yeah. I think about the Miami disaster that we had back then, and it was painful to watch. I'm not even going to lie, but we made a lot of changes very quickly. We made a lot of changes, and when people were clamoring for changes to be made in the coaching department, all we had to do was change the personnel department because our changes were as far as putting Isang Bassi on the bench and putting Jaquan McMillan in instead. One of our other changes was putting Damari Mathis on the bench as well and starting Fabian Moreau. And it wasn't like Fabian Moreau was bad or was great or anything like that, but he was a lot better than Damari Mathis. And Damari Mathis got absolutely cooked in the first month of that 2023 year. And we got better as the year went on. And that's a huge testament to Sean Payton for leading this historically bad team to an 8 or what was a historically bad defense at first into an 8-9 record as well. And, Vance Joseph, it's time for a discussion about Vance Joseph because he has not only made people eat their words about him for the past year and a half, he has well exceeded any reasonable expectation I think anybody could have had for him going forward and being the defensive coordinator of the Broncos in 2024 and 2025, or 2023 and 2024. And we'll see if it keeps up in 2025. But I do have my questions as far as the ceiling of this team with Vance Joseph as defensive coordinator, because there were some games where it was a little ugly. Like, I don't know why in the world we threw Levi Wallace out there against Cleveland. I don't know why in the world we did not do we weren't able to hold up against the Chargers after seemingly playing really well against them early on in that game. But yeah, so Vance Joseph, like I said, there is a ceiling question there. There is a ceiling question like, oh, can this guy take us over the top? Is this guy, belonging in that Vic Fangio, Steve Spagnuolo conversation? And as far as, what he's done throughout his career, I'm going to go with no. But, if there's any year that he can creep up into that category, it's going to be that one. Hope Wallace is gone. Man, he was bad. He got cut like 5 days after that disastrous performance against Jerry Jeudy. But yeah, so Vance Joseph, he's had a really interesting arc because, when he was our head coach here, I remember his first year, we were just getting blown out left and right. I remember we had 6 double-digit losses, I think. And when we lost that year, we lost bad. So that was really ugly to see. It was really unfortunate that we did have to suffer that fate. But ultimately, I wasn't really happy when we hired him again in 2023 because I was honestly just happy there wasn't Matt Patricia above all else. But yeah, when I'm thinking about everything else that went on during that year, I think that Matt Patricia stuff got leaked because, they didn't know how he'd react to Vance Joseph coming back as our defensive coordinator. But yeah, he did exceptional. He did exceptional this past year. And some dudes just aren't meant to be head coaches, and that's okay. But, Justin Simmons said it all the time. Players love playing for Vance Joseph. And at first, I thought it was because the dude lacked accountability. I thought it was because the dude was entirely lax on the players. I thought he just did not have enough intensity, even though when we were in, when we were in practice during his first year as a head coach, he'd be like, we had a great week of work. And then the game would come and we'd get blown out. He'd be like, how did this happen? But yeah, so should the Broncos go out and get a veteran wide receiver, as in Keenan Allen? I mean, to be completely honest, if you're getting wide receivers at this point of the offseason who aren't even signed by other teams in May, like, what do you think they can realistically provide to us? Like, that's just how I'm feeling about that. I don't think we should kick the tires on like those Keenan Allens or Coopers or anything like that. But yeah, so Vance Joseph, once again, I have talked enough about him. I think he did really, really well as our defensive coordinator this past year. But yeah, so thinking about our coaching staff as well, one of the really underrated reasons why we were able to turn around as quick as we did, over the past few years is because, or I would say this past year in general, is because we had such good position coaches. And it doesn't just extend from the offensive side of the ball. Zach Strief has really, really come into his own under Sean Payton as the first-time offensive line coach. But you look at the defense, I can't remember who the inside linebacker coach is now, but I remember we fired him. And he was the defensive coordinator at Washington State. I don't remember his name. But either way, as far as our coaching staff on the defensive side of the ball, loaded. And Jamar Cain was LSU's defensive line coach before he came over to the Denver Broncos. And it was really, really cool seeing the progression of our guys this past year or these past few years. He helped Nick Bonito and Zach Allen reach heights that they had not. I honestly didn't think were possible. Same with Jonathan Cooper as well. And Brandon Jordan was a pass rush specialist who really, really did a good job with that. And Brandon Jordan does deserve a shout out, even though he's not technically a part of our staff. He's just a NFL pass rushing coach who has, I think, like 100 some odd clients of NFL players. But yeah, so really, really good job by Brandon Jordan. And you know what? This is the fruits of a rebuild because there are so many ways that you can get ahead as an NFL team or so many ways that you can get behind. And one of them is positional coaching. I don't remember who I saw say this, but one of the biggest jobs of the positional coaches is just being like, all right, if this play comes down to me, and let's say it's a fifth string corner or something like that, let's say it's a fifth string edge rusher. If I have this matchup, if I have this assignment, if I have this, defense, if I have this scheme I'm playing in, then am I ready? And if the answer is yes, then the positional coach did their job as well. But yeah, when they're going through their meetings, like part of the NFL that we really don't see, which is why I love Hard Knocks in season, is the positional meetings every single week. And you know what? You get a really good glimpse into what goes on during there. You get like literally star players hanging out with practice squad dudes who play the same position, and it's just interesting to see the intricacies that go into uh, those meetings and everything like that. But yeah, so Jamar Kane had done a really, really good job this past year with, our dudes that we had sent to him. Now, one of the dudes I really, really want to get everybody excited about and I want to get some hype for. Last summer, I remember I was watching Brett Coleman, and he said that Jim Leonard was a future head coach in the NFL. And when I think about what he had done for our secondary this past year, I think that tracks because Jim Leonard, when he was the defensive coordinator at Wisconsin, I think that he was really, I don't know, bummed out that he didn't get that gig. So he came to the NFL instead. And he had done really, really good as a first time positional coach, especially coming to the NFL. I think he played safety for us in 2012. Um, if Broncos get rid of Vance Joseph, Zach Allen is probably going to want to go because he played under Vance Joseph's defense because he followed Vance Joseph. Yeah, I mean, he did say that in that interview that he was really, really high on what's his name? He was really, really happy with uh following Vance Joseph to the Denver Broncos. But yeah, I don't know. I agree with this because mainly money is the main motivator for players. All right. Everything can be solved by money. Zach Allen, if Vance Joseph if something happens to him next year, then Zach Allen, here you go. Cry on your $25 million a year. I don't think that Zach Allen will probably want to go necessarily, but yeah, I could see how it wouldn't uh, make him happy. But I don't really know how much I agree with that, Payton. But that is an interesting thing to think about. But either way, back to what I was saying about Jim Leonard. So he's a rising star. He elevated Surtain's game to new heights in 2024. He also deserves a lot of credit for helping develop this guy behind me, Riley Moss, right there. And we came into this training camp with a cornerback two competition that ultimately ended up not being much of a competition at all because it was over when Mathis unfortunately did get hurt and broke his foot. But yeah, so when I think back to what had happened and this past year with Riley Moss's development, he was so good before he drew the unfortunate matchup coming off the MCL sprain against Cincinnati. And, the rest of the secondary, Jaquan McMillan, he built on a very, very strong 2023, and he's going to play a lot next year. And now we have Jahdae Barron. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Jim Leonard coaches the secondary because now you have, instead of Levi Wallace and PJ Locke, now you have Jahdae Barron and Talanoa Hufanga. And I'm really, really excited to see what comes of that. And once again, Jim Leonard is a rising star in NFL circles. So if you want to see a dude who you are very excited about or who a lot of people in the NFL industry is excited about, that's currently on our coaching staff. Like there's a reason we had to promote all these guys. I don't know exactly what title we gave him. I think we gave him assistant head coach, but we gave like 3 dudes the assistant head coach title. And yeah, so I just want to say, hey, everybody, if you made it this far, yo, what's up? Kick back, relax, and you know what? Let's just have an amazing experience tonight. Join the chat as well. I'm responding to every comment. I think the Broncos defense is going to be no-fly zone 2.0, to be honest. Yeah, I agree. So, number 3. Now, going back to this slide, I already talked about this kind of, but there were 3 areas of the defense in 2024 that stuck out like a sore thumb in our big games. And I think you all know who I'm talking about. Because there were just completely unacceptable parts of our games last year where we were not communicative. We did not have the talent to really keep up with the Chargers, the Bills, and the Bengals or anything like that. And these guys stuck out like sore thumbs. And obviously, I am talking about Cody Barden. I am talking about Justin Sternad. I am talking about PJ Locke. And when I think back to last year, like these guys had all had good years. PJ Locke didn't, I will say. But Cody Barton had a pretty good year, especially when he was called upon to be the inside linebacker one. You lose Alex Singleton really early in the year. You lose him in week 3, plays the entire game on a torn ACL. I don't know how. I thought he played absolutely fantastic that game too. And you lose him for the year, which was really unfortunate. But Sternad and Barton both answered the bell when it was called. So these guys had really good years. But how long are you going to be live? I have to go in like 4 hours. I'm not going to be on for 4 hours. But Barton and Sternad had done a really good job of holding down the fort against the bad teams. And that is my caveat with this, is against the bad teams, they did a really good job holding the fort down. Unfortunately, when things got rough and when things got gritty, they just didn't have what it took to keep up. They were completely exposed. They were the biggest liabilities and the biggest, how do I put this? They were picked on quite a bit by the Bengals, the Chargers, the Ravens, the Chiefs, and all the good teams. They knew that we had issues at the inside linebacker position. So you'd be obviously smart to target the inside linebacker position in general, assuming it was our biggest weakness. And, that's what happened. That's what happened. And you know what? I can kind of forgive Sternad for this. Like, I thought Sternad played terribly in the last month of the year, but I can kind of forgive him for that because he was never supposed to be in that position in the first place. Once again, it comes down to resources. It comes down to, did we have what it took to build a roster? Did we have, those resources to go out and get whatever? And the answer to that was no. The answer to that was no, because we honestly did not have the pieces to go out and do whatever. Yo, we got 17 people in here. Yo, shout out to y'all. Leave a comment. Big mile high salute to y'all. And I'm interacting with every comment tonight, so be sure to drop one as well. But yeah, so once again, just going back to what I was saying, Barton and Sternad, they were just picked on way too much. Like tight ends coming across the middle of the field, they were a nightmare. Like, it's going to give me nightmares watching Sternad try to cover, Stone Smart or whoever that guy was on the Chargers that had, that had like 3 catches for 51 yards. The Buffalo game, the wild card game. I'm pretty sure Knox and Kincaid, both of whom haven't really done a whole lot in the NFL, even though they're reliable contributors, they both got over 50 yards that game. And I think a lot of that was due to the fact that PJ Locke was back there, and he was absolutely atrocious on money down. So the fact that we were able to upgrade, the fact that we were able to get Talanoa Hufanga, yeah, he was absolutely atrocious on money downs in big situations. He is solid depth. But he is by no means a starter in this league. And he had earned this. You know what, Brandon, looking forward for Wilson to be off the books after this year as well. Yeah, me too, because that's going to give us a lot of flexibility with the salary cap, and that's going to give us a lot of leeway with our salary cap situation as well, because we didn't have the money to go out and improve a lot of these pieces over the past few years. But guess what? We've still had a great offseason in spite of that. And now with everything coming off the books, now you can use some of that money to extend, our guys and whatnot. But you're giving good info. This is my new Denver Broncos content to watch. Thank you. Shout out to you, Payton. I'll be sure to check your stuff out as well. But yeah, PJ Locke was just horrible, man. When he was getting burned, he was getting beat badly. And he had earned the right to be a starter for this team. He had earned everything he had gotten in the NFL because he was a UDFA. He had become a core special teams dude. And when Kareem Jackson was getting constantly suspended in the year of 2023, PJ Locke really stepped up. And he was one of the dudes who I think, since he didn't have time to think about everything, it's kind of interesting to think about this because since he didn't have time to process everything, he had this whole offseason basically knowing that he was going to be a starter. I see a Broncos Super Bowl win in 3 or 4 seasons. I see it within 2 or 3, man. I agree with you there. But yeah, PJ Locke just did not do well when called upon, when we really needed that big play. I mean, he actually did make a handful of really nice plays. Like against the Colts, he hit Michael Pittman and forced him to fumble and everything like that. But for every one of those, there were just way too many times on 3rd down where he was getting beat. There were just way too many times on, those money downs where you got to have it. You got to make a play. You got to do something to where you can have your safety just make a play for you, and he just never did. And that was a big problem for us that year. So when I think about everything that had gone on with PJ Locke and with our safety position in general, like Brandon Jones, phenomenal year, but it was clear the one guy who stuck out like a sore thumb on the defensive side of the ball was PJ Locke. Once again, my biggest complaint with him is not down to down, it was situational. Third, fourth down, he was not reliable. Late in games, he was not reliable. And he was a big, big liability for us, unfortunately. So, yeah. And he was solid depth, but he's not a starter. Now, what I've been getting at this whole slide is that Greenlaw and Hufanga were both signed to rectify these issues. And there are some other ways that we can solve these issues. Like, for example, we can put 6 defensive backs on the field, 6 or 7 defensive backs on the field, because now we have the personnel to do that. And, if you're going to deploy a dime package like that, then you better make sure you have the talent to do it. And guess what? We do. We 1000% have the talent to do that. But Greenlaw and Hufanga, okay, what I'm getting at is that these two guys are great communicators. These guys are great middle of the field dudes. These guys are absolutely phenomenal veteran pieces who are captains, who are captains for the 49ers. Or I don't know if they were captains per se, but, a lot of people hang their hat on the communication that those guys had and whatnot. So, yeah, Richie, yo, what's up? Good evening to you. I hope you're having an amazing night. We're just talking about some of the Broncos defense. So big high salute to you, Richie. Either way, or Ricky. I don't know how you pronounce that, but yeah. So there are some other ways that we can solve the big issues that we had on this team. Like, for example, I think the defensive line really crumbled during the Buffalo and Baltimore games. So the way you solve that, why not throw JFM and Savion at edge? That's how I feel about that. And once again, Greenlaw and Hufanga were signed because the inside linebacker and safety positions were an absolute black hole last year. Richie, not Ricky. All right, perfect. I'll remember that for next time your comments come up. But yeah, either way, so I think it's now time to move on to my next slide. And this is a huge one. I think Jade Barron is the Joker player because he can play more than just defensive back. I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, he can't really. I mean, if he could play box safety, and that's still kind of a DB, but I get what you're saying. Like, he can play in the box as well. Also, thoughts on injury issues. If you're talking about Greenlaw and Hufanga in particular, I already kind of touched on it, where I think that our strength and conditioning staff has done such a good job over the past few years that while these guys are not 100% guarantees, I feel like that our regime has earned the right to take risks on dudes that have been often injured over the past few years, because the 49ers, let's face it, they have a big training issue over there. And we did before Sean Payton came as well, but we improved upon it in a big way. So I'm thinking about the continuity between the roster and the coaching staff. And listen, we did lose a bunch of executives and offensive assistants and, whatever, but the pieces are all still there on the defensive side of the ball. Like I said, we promoted Jim Leonard. We did something with Jamar Kane. I think we made him like the D-line and pass rush coach or something like that. But yeah, all the pieces are there on the defensive side of the ball to still be really, really strong next year. And guess what? This is something I did not know until today, but the Broncos had the highest roster retention rate in the league, in the entire league this past offseason, which was 85%. And I think Green Bay was second with like 83. But, the fact that we had the highest roster retention rate in the league, and the only guys we lost were like Javonte, like Cody Barton, Lil Jordan Humphrey, Tremont Smith. Like, that's just absolutely fantastic. So we didn't lose any key guys on the defensive side of the ball, which is absolutely huge. We weren't really at risk of losing anyone because we didn't have any dudes like up for none of our big dudes are up for, or were up for had expiring contracts this past year, but they do this upcoming year. But yeah, all sports news by Payton. I think our defensive line is going to be unstoppable this season. I agree, and that's why I'm making this video. But all the important pieces for this coaching staff are still there. Okay, Sean Payton is a part of this defensive coaching staff too, even though he's an offensive head coach. But Vance Joseph, Zach Strief, I felt like mentioning him here too, even though he's not he doesn't tie into this idea at all. He does tie into the idea that we had a lot of strong continuity between the guys we really couldn't lose. Jamar Kane, Jim Leonard, and yeah. So we only added heart and soul pieces in Barron, Greenlaw, and Hufanga. Like I said, adding 3 guys that play with their hair on fire, that's going to be amazing for this team, going into this upcoming year. And when the communication in the defense gets bad, you're going to be looking at these guys like Greenlaw and Hufanga and Barron, since he plays as a veteran and he knows exactly what to look for. Like, just listening to him, he knows exactly what everybody is going to, uh, be trying to do on the offensive side of the ball. And I expect him to come in and play like a vet immediately, be a vet in the building, and communicate like a vet ultimately on the field. And I don't think our issues this past year strive from a lack of communication, but a lack of talent. And guess what? There's none of that anymore. There's none of that as well. And ooh, this is going to be a cool comment to digest from Richie. I am still concerned with the interior defensive line play, and the retention rate is good despite the fact that I still dislike certain players. Some of them are just too difficult to replace. 100%. And I am concerned about the fact that we don't have like a true nose tackle on this team. And yeah, like the one thing I will say is I feel like since we did not add a nose tackle this past year, it tells me that they are largely betting on the additions behind the defensive line, like Greenlaw, Hufanga, and Barron to be better in run support as well. Because honestly, that was an issue. Like, our inside linebackers and safeties weren't good enough against the run in the games we got completely run over. But, one of the other things we can do personnel-wise to avoid this happening is put JFM and Savion at edge on early downs. And that's something that I wish the coaching staff did more of this past year. I wish they got a little more creative with that. I don't know why they didn't, to be quite honest, but I think if push comes to shove again, I think we will see more of that. But yeah, I think DJ Jones and Malcolm Roach did really, really well last year in 13 or 14 out of our 17, 18 games. But yeah, I agree with you that, when push comes to shove and we're playing against those big teams like the Chargers, we play the Eagles next year. Like, when we play against them, that'll be a good test to see how our defense responds. But yeah, what I was saying with this is we only added, to be more specific, I am talking about a Jordan Davis type guy. So yeah, you're talking about like just the 340-pound monster that you can just plug in the middle of the defense. I agree. And I would really like to see them add one, but I don't really know who is available out there who you could realistically add at this point in the offseason. I mean, like I said, maybe they're just fine with going lighter into this upcoming year, but I don't know why they would be, considering what happened this past year. But yeah, a Jordan Davis type guy is literally the missing piece for this defense. So you're right about that. The only thing we do not have personnel wise is a big plug and play nose tackle like a Jordan Davis, a Vita Vea. I thought Kenneth Grant would have been a perfect addition to this, but to this defense. But obviously he wasn't available. But yeah, so yeah, they're nearly not available unless we target UDFA and roster cut guys. Yeah, yeah. So I guess, we might keep them stashed. It depends on what happens with Owazurike. Owazurike might make this team, and he is 320 pounds. So that might be good in that regard as well. But yeah, so adding Barron, Greenlaw, and Hufanga is going to be really, really good for our continuity between the roster and the coaching staff. And I think that's pretty much all I want to touch on with that slide. So number 5, we are now a young and hungry, battle-tested team. There were several games we played in this year where, unlike years past, were high magnitude and prime time. And you don't know what that can do for a team. Now that we've been through adversity, now that we've been through some absolute bangers of football games, which, can we just harp on the fact that it was so, so amazing to watch us in prime time this past year based on how many stinkers we had laid in prime time over the past few years. Like, the fact that we played in amazing games this past year, like against Cleveland, against the Bengals, against the Chargers, like all those games were so, so good, even though the Cincinnati game and Chargers game did not end in our favor. The fact that we played in several games this past year that were high magnitude in prime time, it's going to have this team ready. It's going to have this team ready. All right, let's get to this comment by Payton. We have a lot of wide receivers, linebackers, and corners. Who do you all think is going to make the team? I think we're going to carry 4 linebackers. I think it's going to be I don't really know how our wide receiver room is going to shake out at the bottom of the roster, but if you're talking about linebackers specifically, our 4 inside linebackers who will make the team will be Stranad. He'll be the fourth one. Sanders and Singleton will battle for that second spot, and then Greenlaw. And as far as corners, I mean, we don't really have any bubble guys. Our corner room is pretty set, barring injury. So Patrick Surtain, Riley Moss, Jaquan McMillan, Jade Barron, and Chris Abrams-Drain. Those 5. But yeah. So once again, what I was saying is we are a young and hungry, battle-tested team. We've been through the depths of a primetime game. We've played well in primetime, which is something that we have not been able to do in the past few years. And yeah, so, when I talk about the fact that we're battle-tested, we passed every test last year for the most part with flying colors. When bad teams came in here, we beat the brakes off of them. And the next step for us is bringing it against the contenders. Like, honestly, our defense did not play that well against some of the other high-class contenders of the AFC. And we really, really, really needed them to step up in a few games. And unfortunately, they couldn't do it. They got run over against Baltimore. They did not play well against the Bengals. They did not play well against the Chargers. They did not play well against the Bills in the playoff game. But, the next step is how do you get to that level? The next step is how do you ascend to these new heights where you're finally able to compete with the Josh Allens of the world, where you're able to compete with the Lamar Jacksons of the world. And I think now that we have the talent to do so, and now that all of our big liabilities are completely out the door on the defensive side of the ball, I think that we're going to be able to, reach that next step. And I think that we are going to get to that next level on the defensive side of the ball. And from last year, there's going to be a lot of really, really, really sour tastes in everybody's mouth. I think back to the Chargers games, both Chargers games, where we just completely blew it. And I like the slide, but we had a two-faced team in 2024. Early in the season, we did well on D. Later in the season, the D really struggled. Yes, I 100% agree. And it was because, like I said, we didn't really bring it against the contenders. And also, one of the big things is that when we had basically one injury, we completely fell apart. When Riley Moss went out and tore his MCL, our secondary was terrible. It was absolutely pitiful what it looked like. And once again, that's still due to the fact that we didn't have a lot of resources to really improve upon our team over the past 3 years because of the Russell Wilson trade. And, I think we were banking on a lot of infrastructure to kind of be in place, and we were just kind of relying on our young guys to figure it out on the fly or anything like that. But yeah, later in the season, the D really struggled. Yeah, I can agree with that assessment, especially because later in the season, that's when we really started to play against better teams. And, I think the toll of the long season kind of just caught up to us. But we also didn't have any gimmies in the past month of the year. We also struggled on offense against better teams. So if we need to put a more competent offense on the field if we want to be taken seriously. Yes, I agree. We cannot go 3 and out at the clip we did this past year again, particularly in the December month, Richie. We went 3 and out at 40% of our offensive drives, which is just inexcusable. But, the fact that we have a real middle of field passing game now, the fact that we have a real middle of field weapon in Ingram, the fact that we have, RJ Harvey, who, when you look at Sean Payton and his history with using offensive deployment with his weapons and everything like that, it seems like a lot of the time the wide receiver 2 and his offense is basically the running back. So we're going to have a guy who can actually attack between the hashes, and we are going to be a more efficient offense. And I agree that it's going to be really, really good that we're going to be able to play more complementary football as well. Do you think it hurts us flying from Denver to Philadelphia to London than Rutherford? So first of all, here's one thing I have to say about this. We are not flying from London to Rutherford. We're flying back home. Like the week 7 game against the Giants is back home that week. But yeah, so, I mean, I guess if you really, really want to say that, then you're not entirely incorrect, but no, I think we got a big gift with our schedule, to be completely honest. I was really, really happy with the way that our schedule panned out. And, obviously we had the short week before we head to Philadelphia because, we play on Monday Night Football that week, and it's against the Bengals, which that's going to be a game I think we're going to put all our baskets into, or all of our eggs into that basket. But yeah, but no, our schedule turned out amazingly because instead of that, after we get back from London, we basically have I think, 5 weeks where we do literally nothing besides sit at home. And we have basically a month and a half of rest before we actually, or not of rest, but a month and a half before we actually take another meaningful road trip. But yeah, so there should be a lot of sour taste in everybody's mouths from certain games this past year. Like I said, Chargers, Chiefs, 14 watching now. Click that like button. All thank you, Richie. Thank you, Richie. Listen to Richie, and yeah, click that like button. Make sure you subscribe and join the chat, man. I'm trying to interact with every comment because I'm trying to do like a live video of my style. So I really, really hope you guys are liking what you're seeing tonight as well. But yeah, so our defenses will also get some chances to get in tune before our schedule gets really, really tough. And yeah, once again, we're young and hungry. We're battle tested. It doesn't mean necessarily that we are going to play better against these contenders per se. But now that we have big game experience, you don't know what that can do for a team. You don't know what that can do for a team that was so young this past year, for a team that really showed out, or for a team that played really, really well when the lights weren't bright. But when the lights were bright, they did not play that well at all. But yeah, so if you guys want a recap of my things, like everything I had to say right here, once again, the talent on this defense is just so, so loaded. Like the fact that we have an embarrassment of riches here is absolutely fantastic. And I really think that we're going to go absolutely nuclear on the defensive side of the ball this upcoming year. Once again, I wouldn't have included Alex Singleton or Drew Sanders in this conversation, but everybody else we can rely on to be a solid depth piece and reliable contributors. So yeah. What else? 2 absolutely loaded coaching staff. Once again, Sean Payton, not a defensive head coach, but he's very quick to adjust when stuff goes bad on the defensive side of the ball. Vance Joseph made people eat their words about him. Once again, I do have concerns about the ceiling of this defense. I do think that we will, look to prove that we can hang against really, really good teams. But, can Vance Joseph win a Super Bowl? I'm not entirely sure. We'll just see it play out this past year. You think we'll have a better record again against 500 teams this upcoming year? Yes. The reason I say that is because we're going to have just a lot better complementary football. And it is time for Mark to come on here. Yo, what's cracking, big dog?
What's good, brother? How you doing, man?
I'm amazing. So, I just want to get your thoughts on before I show you what I had to say on this show. I want you to respond to this comment from Melon Lennon. You think we will have a better record again against 500 teams this upcoming year? Not glasses.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think so. I think that's something that we've built on is that we've gotten like, I think this year we've gotten so much better to where we can actually perform against the more elite teams.
Yeah.
I don't really understand the whole like 500 conversation because, like when we played the Bucks, they were undefeated and then we beat them. And then the Bucks ended up being a playoff team. There was a couple other teams that we ended up beating, but at the time they weren't 500, but they ended up being above 500 teams. So it's like, what does that mean? But yeah, I think so, man. I think so. But how you feeling, man? How you doing tonight?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. So I'm going to show you what I just got your text. We'll take
Oh,
your
you're
mind off.
good. You're good.
We'll take your mind off of it. I promise. But either way, so here's everything I had to say. If you want to interject on anything, this was just basically me saying, look at the talent we have on the defensive side of the ball. Look at
It's ridiculous, dude.
It's ridiculous. So yeah, do you have any thoughts on like the overall roster?
No,
that
I mean,
we
I would say my question is when you look at any of these defensive guys is I want to ask this like as seriously as I possibly can. Would you risk losing any of these guys in order to keep Cortland Sutton beyond the 2025 season?
I mean, if it's Alex Singleton or Cortland Sutton, I'm taking Cortland Sutton. Like that's just the bottom line.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Yeah,
But
but I'm saying the guys that need the extensions that we're really talking about, right? Like Nick Benito, Zach Allen, John Franklin Myers.
yeah.
Where's your threshold there? Are you looking at it like, man, I would rather have like, and I'm talking beyond this year, not necessarily, not this year. Like I'm assuming we're gonna roll with Sutton this upcoming season.
hmm
Um, But is there anybody that you're like, oh man, I'd rather extend Sutton and then risk losing, let's say Nick Bonito, for example?
So as far as the guys who I think are upcoming this next year, and as far as the guys that are like potentially on the bubble, like I mean, there's no reason to talk about Jonah Ellis because he's like a second-year player or whatever on the 4-year rookie contract. But Nick Bonito, Zach Allen, JFM, of those three guys, I do think you now, with the Savion Jones pick, I think you do now have enough depth to sustain, and I do think you can move on from JFM, even though I mean, JFM was pretty good this past year. Like, I don't want to take anything away from him, but if it's JFM or Sutton, since we have a stacked deck of cards on the defensive side of the ball, assuming Sutton keeps up his play, which he might not, he very well might not, especially because his style and his position does not necessarily age well, then I think the stacked deck of cards on the defensive side of the ball will lead you to John Franklin Myers being able to be an expendable piece. And, obviously that assumes everything goes well with Savion Jones. But, with our defensive coaching staff, I have no reason to believe that it wouldn't.
No, I agree, man. I'm happy that you brought up JFM because I feel like that's the perfect comp, like the defensive comp for what Sutton means to the offense. Now, a lot of people are going to be like, well, what do you mean? Cortland Sutton's the number one wide receiver, blah, blah, blah. And I get that. But if you had somebody, like you can like, for example, John Franklin Myers is a very good player. He's solid, right? But you feel like you could probably upgrade at that position or let somebody else like Malcolm Roach, who also is going to be in need of a deal, by the way, after this upcoming season, or Savion Jones. So it's like, where do you find that threshold? Like, I'm fine with allowing John Franklin Myers to leave regardless because I like the depth there, and I think that's where the whole conversation with Sutton comes. But I don't want to overhaul this particular conversation that you were having.
No.
Because it might have been something old. I'm sorry. I literally just popped on. I was like, let's see if he's still live, and he was.
No. I'm actually really happy you joined because I literally just wrapped up like all my notes, and now we can just kick back and chill with the chat. But either way, so answer Richie here wanted to like interject his thoughts. He said that, with the teams that are like gritty, he still thinks that the bigger, grittier offenses will do okay against us. Here's what I will say. I think since we got run over last year, I think one thing that's really underrated as far as why we got run over was because we were not able to sustain possession. Okay. Like I said, the middle of the field, you alluded to this, you commented this on my last video. The middle of the field for me was still a big problem. Like, it wasn't the black hole that it was with Russell Wilson at all. Like, 15 intermediate passes the whole year. That's not what I'm saying it whatsoever. But just the fact that we have real drive sustaining offense now, the fact that we have Ingram, the fact that we have Harvey, the fact that we're going to have a real run game and a real playmaker from the running back position, that's going to be absolutely fantastic, as well as, adding some of those middle of the field wide receiver weapons. We'll see what happens with Mims, Franklin, and, them taking steps forward and whatnot. But Pat Bryant, we'll see what he's able to do attacking the middle of the field. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt. I think the bigger, grittier teams is exactly, what we did this offseason to address that. I think we realized that we needed to find a way to be able to control the clock better. And that's why the draft pick of RG Harvey and us taking him and addressing that position is something that is going to help with that because, we do need to control the clock better. In addition to that, though, and I know you've been one of the biggest proponents of this, and you've talked about this the most on your channel, is the run game, as bad as it was, a lot of it was to blame on Payton as well, on Sean Payton, the coach, right? I mean, just his inability to stick with it, to have a little bit of creative, runs out of the different sets. I mean, there were games. The one that comes to mind always is that second Chargers game where we were running the ball really well. And for whatever reason, even though he had run the ball written on his play sheet like you had talked about, right? He stopped doing it. So he's going to get better there. We're going to be able to run the ball. We're going to have a better tight end to be able to, be the safety blanket and stretch the middle of the field. But guys, let's not forget about it. Like, Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga are elite. If they're healthy, they are elite at stopping the run. They are elite at being able to stop drives. And the biggest problem was, like, I feel like on a defensive front standpoint, we were always at worst even with the O-line that we were going against. So in games that we felt like maybe we were, being dominated or teams were running down our throat, it's not because the D-line, like you can't expect the D-line to get the stop every single time. But the second they broke the D-line and they got into the secondary, like past that first level, it was a wrap. And that's where we're going to be so much better is being able to stop the run. And that's why, like, I think Richie Rich talked about Alex Singleton earlier and how he feels like he's somebody that we should sign. Yeah, I mean, I'm all for that because he's very good against the run, and teaming him up with Greenlaw. Greenlaw can take all the coverage snaps if needed, right? Or in the certain possessions where you need him to cover, he can do that because he's a good cover linebacker, and so you can have him just focus on stopping the run rather than having to be a liability in coverage like he's shown that he can be, or vice versa. If you find another linebacker opposite of Greenlaw that's really good, that's borderline elite at stopping the run, you can have Greenlaw be the guy that covers. So his versatility is going to be huge for us. So I don't think we're going to have nearly the issue against very physical teams as we have in the past, simply because we're better on the second and the third level, and we have more depth on the rotational defensive line.
Yeah, you make a lot of good points there. Like, you can't really expect the defensive line to get the stop every single time. And I'm pretty sure we were first in EPA against the run this past year as far as the defensive side of the ball. That being said, I mean, we obviously had those really, really bad games, but I'm not concerned. Like, the only teams I am concerned about on our schedule this upcoming year doing that to us again are the Chargers and the Eagles. Every other team, I'm like, our run defense can, whatever. Obviously, it's going to come down to these tough divisional games. The Chargers, they swept us in large part because we did not have the infrastructure to, keep up with them. And honestly, they weren't even like running it down our throat. It felt like our inside linebackers just played really bad. Same with our safety that game as well. And there's two comments from Richie that I want to talk about here. Singleton is an anticipatory linebacker. He is better in coverage than he gets credit for. I agree. He's not amazing. What I will say, I was not happy at all with him in 2023, like at all. But this past year with the improved defensive line, I thought he played amazing. In the game where he tore his ACL, like in week 3, I thought he had a phenomenal game. And I thought he did a phenomenal job at shutting down the Tampa Bay running game. Richie also says this one, we need a center or one to prove they are good. I disagree, man. I think Wattenberg is pretty good. Like, if you look at a lot of the pass protection metrics, like he was top 5 in virtually every center pass blocking metric. And you could say whatever you want about like our offensive line and, Bo Nix helping him out or whatever. But I think, Wattenberg was a problem in run support. I won't deny that at all. But I think if being a good pass blocker and being, one of the top 3 pass blockers in the league that the metrics showed that he was this past year, if the trade-off for that is him being bad in run offense and whatever, then I'll take that any day of the week. But he'll still develop. But yeah. So what do you thought of these two comments from Richie here?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with him when it comes to the center position to an extent, right? Like, do I think we need a center? I don't think we need one by any means. I think this is a very similar conversation that you can have when you talk about the Cortland Sutton debate, right? Is can you upgrade from Luke Wattenberg? Sure. But if you had to roll in the season with Luke Wattenberg as your center, you're fine with it. And I think, for me, it's like, it's not do as you say, it's do as you show. And they've shown that they've got some pretty decent confidence in Luke Wattenberg. I think eventually maybe he can get beaten out by somebody, whether it's Clay Webb or whether it's Alex Forsyth or somebody else. Sure. But I think Luke Wattenberg is fine. My big thing is like, and what was the other comment?
Oh, it's talking about Singleton, like, being, whatever.
Oh yeah. See, this one I completely disagree with Richie. And obviously I love the comment and I appreciate it, but he's absolutely terrible in coverage. But it's not that he's that terrible in coverage if you need him to do it, a handful of times in a game. It becomes a problem when teams realize that he's not that good in coverage. So when they start to game plan against him in coverage, they'll start to call their offense based on how can we get, Alex Singleton isolated one-on-one with somebody else. That's kind of the big thing, right? So if him as the linebacker two, for example, he's going to be able to fare very well versus him being the guy that teams are attacking every single time. And going back to the previous comment of being able to control the game, the first game that we played the Chargers when we lost 23-16, it was 23-0 at one point. They controlled the clock for 38 minutes, and we had time of possession of 22, and they had actually only 128 rushing yards. And we had
I remember Dobbins wasn't like eating us up that game. I remember it was all like third down. We were just awful.
Exactly. I mean, anytime we had a focus on like we need to stop the run, we did a really good job of stopping the run. The problem became when they would be able to like Will Dissly, I think, had a big game. Let me
Stone Smart and like whoever. Yeah.
And Stone Smart had a big game. And then the second game, we actually had a better time of possession than they did. And they had roughly the same amount of rush yards. But again, it was guys being able to be wide open across the middle. So it wasn't so much the run defense as it was guys, like we were unable to sustain drives, and our defense would allow for other teams, specifically really good offenses, to be able to continue to sustain drives. That's really where the biggest, issue lied for me. Simi Fehoko was the leading passer in that first game with 44, leading catcher, receiver with 44 yards. Ladd McConkey had 43. Kamani Vidal had 40. Josh Palmer had 38. So they spread the shit out of the ball the first game. And then the second game, it was, hold on. I clicked the wrong one. The second game,
I think Ladd actually did pretty well the second game, but
yeah, he had 87 yards. Josh Palmer had 41. But Hassan Haskins had a touchdown. So they beat us twice, like in both games. Kamani Vidal had a touchdown. I think it was against Singleton in the first one, in the past game. And in the second one, I think it was against Barton. Hassan Haskins had it. So they had realized you can beat these linebackers one-on-one. I think that changes this year, and I think that helps. I mean, I truly believe we are going to be not just the top 3 defense, probably the top defense in the NFL, but one of the best when it comes to just being fully well-rounded. I mean, this defense is stacked, dude.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what this whole live stream is about. A few comments I want to hit on here. What do you think the Broncos' record will be? I predicted them to go 12-5, or no, 11-6. I can't remember which one.
I think you had 12-5 actually.
Wow.
And I was at 11-6 when we first went through it. Obviously, things change.
Things will change, and things will change. Things will change.
Regardless, I think 11 wins should be the expectation for this team this year. No reason to not believe that.
Yeah, exactly. Another comment real quick before we get to Andy. Should we go out and get another right tackle because McGlinchey's always getting hurt and he is 30? I don't really agree with this at all. Like, he missed 4 games this past year. And I mean, Palczewski held down the fort pretty well. So
yeah.
I think
I agree. Palko is the guy.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea to go out and get some tackle depth, but like if you like what you have in the pipeline, like with Xavier Truss or Palczewski or even Parrott, then I don't think it makes sense to spend a lot of resources on right tackle.
Yep. No, I mean, I think it's a fair point. Like I said, I think what Palko showed last year made it to where we didn't have to address that position, because I personally don't think McGlinchey will be a part of this roster after this season, but he can be. And that just the fact that we have those options is super helpful for sure.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Andy, I have faith in Drew Sanders as a breakout candidate going into year 3. The positional nuances will be naturally resolved if his health remains intact. All right, I'll let you take this one first because I'm really curious to hear what you have to say about Drew Sanders.
Yeah, I agree, man. I mean, I think I agree with a lot of what Andy says. I think the biggest issue with Drew Sanders, aside from the fact that he's had all these injuries, is the fact that he's had an identity crisis when it comes to what he's playing in the NFL. Yeah. And so I think now that we know he's going to be an off-ball linebacker, and we know the kind of talent that he has, especially coming out of Arkansas and showing what he has, he can do that. But it's tough to project with him because health has been a serious concern for him, a serious concern. So listen, I think if Drew Sanders is healthy and he plays an entire offseason, and he does so at off-ball linebacker, I think in my opinion, he should be the favorite to be the starter opposite of Dre Greenlaw. But it's a big if, man. It almost seems like it's kind of trending towards like the Greg Dulcich situation, where they're just like, they might just get sick of him always being injured. But I mean, I'm curious. I'd love to know what you think on this one.
So with Drew Sanders, I go back and forth because honestly, I wish I could say that he's shown a lot more in the NFL than he currently has, but he hasn't. And part of that is because, he had that Achilles injury last year, so he was a little bit behind the eight ball. But like I said, I don't understand. I will say that I never, ever got the vision from the start with Drew Sanders. And the reason I say that is because with Vance Joseph, like, for all the credit I just gave him in the past hour that I've been talking about, the Broncos and whatever, I feel like he has done a really, really poor job with like these tweener types. Like, and it wasn't just an issue here in Denver with DeMarcus Walker. It was an issue with Isaiah Simmons. It was an issue with Zaven Collins. I'm not a huge fan of being like, well, he doesn't have the instincts to play off-ball linebacker in the NFL, but he doesn't have the top-tier athleticism to really play as an edge rusher. So let me just say, I never, ever got the vision from the start. What I will say, with this coaching staff and with everything that we've seen, Benito, Allen, Cooper taking monumental jumps that we could have never even expected. Even the person who wears the most orange-tinted glasses might, as you put it, may have never seen coming. Like, I'm going to be completely honest. If Drew Sanders does have a breakout, that is our ideal outcome. Is it something I'm necessarily expecting? No. But if we start to get reports, OTAs are tomorrow, training camp is in July. So if we start to get some nice reports about Drew Sanders, I'm going to be really, really excited. But yeah, so I'm not banking on it happening. I think that it's still a coin flip between him or Singleton. As far as who I think is going to be the inside linebacker too and take the most snaps of that position. But this coaching staff, they really, really like him. They activated him really, really early back from his Achilles injury because they really thought he could contribute to our playoff push, which is a big, big deal. So it's not like, often injured players, I think, have fallen out of favor with this coaching staff. Like,
no,
Dulcich,
I mean, go ahead. Sorry.
Like Dulcich, like that. Who else? There was another guy I was thinking of who got hurt a lot. Oh, Caden Stearns. He got cut really early last year. So the players that get injured a lot, they fall out of favor with this coaching staff. But, I mean, he's not in that mold yet. But either way, the fact that he's still in favor with this coaching staff really says a lot.
No, for sure. Obviously, I mean, listen, there's certain things that you kind of have to read into. Like, they obviously loved him for a reason. I mean, there's something that, he showed that they really, really liked, but it seemed like they were almost using him more as like a dimebacker hybrid type of role where he was blitzing a lot. He was coming in on the rush, more than being like a true outside linebacker. But yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see, what he ultimately does this year. I mean, ain't no doubt about it. I'm definitely excited. I'm definitely excited to see what he does.
Yeah. And Richie's got a comment here saying that he thinks Drew Sanders is ultimately going to fail. And I will say I'm a little less optimistic on Drew Sanders than the rest of the fan base, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that one as well.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I don't think he necessarily, I guess fails, because I think about it like, he just doesn't ultimately get the job done. I just feel like injuries is kind of who he is. It's always who he's kind of been in college. I think he's going to get a lot of opportunities, but I'm not going to lie, man. I think if I had to make my prediction right now as to who the other starting outside linebacker is on the team, I kind of think it's either going to be someone that's not currently on the roster or it's going to be Lavelle Bailey.
Whoa, wow.
As crazy as that sounds. Like, I really just believe that, because I think they're going to be looking, they just need, at that position, you just need somebody to be fine. You do not need someone to be elite.
Exactly.
And you need him to be reliable. And Lavelle Bailey showed a lot last year, man. I thought he was really impressive. And, I'm not trying to make it like a hot take, even though it might be, but just watch out for him to be someone that this coaching staff loves in that role.
Yeah, no, I mean, I honestly, I kind of forgot, like, Lavelle Bailey has kind of not been on my radar lately until I saw your video, I think yesterday, and I was like, wow, like, there's kind of a lot that I'm missing there. But, yeah, but the thing about, like, oh, Andy, I was livid on draft night. Not only when we drafted Sanders, but when we traded up for Riley Moss, I was livid, because I love Devon Achane as a
Oh,
prospect.
me too, man. I love
Obviously,
Devon Achane.
yeah, obviously, I'm happy with the Moss pick, but man, could you imagine if we had Achane on this roster instead of Drew
Oh,
Sanders? Yeah, but
oh, yeah.
um, so what was I saying? Oh yes,
You can
so
always
inside.
count on Andy to remind you of the shitty draft moves that we had, right, man?
Exactly.
Go check out his Substack. The dude is a workaholic when it comes to the draft stuff. But my God, that is a pull from the past. Devon Achane. I remember I was pounding the table for him. I'm like, please, for the love of God. So
Oh my
shout
God,
out to you, Andy.
Andy, I remember this exact. I remember when we jumped the Dolphins. I was like, "Oh my God, let's go! This is Javonte Williams 2.0." And then I was like, "Oh," I was
Yeah.
so flaccid.
I was like,
I
oh,
was so
cool. And I
flaccid.
was like, oh, we got to say, because my ass is like, he's playing safety. He's not playing corner, you
Yeah,
know. Uh,
yeah.
but hey, Riley Moss has worked out pretty well too.
Oh yeah, of course, of course. Like I'm not unhappy with the Ollie Moss pick at all. I am kind of unhappy with the Drew Sanders pick, but for reasons that are kind of beyond his control. But Andy, please stop rubbing salt on the wounds. Yeah, but going back to what you were saying about our inside linebacker too. I mean, the only thing that I have to say about that is Greenlaw. As much as we want to like be optimistic and say that he will be good, he's not a guarantee because he is coming off that really brutal injury, and he did look really, really good in the game that he did play this year against the Rams or whatever. But I like you got a white corner. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. But inside linebacker, it's still a huge question mark. Like if there is any area of this defense that you could look at and be like, it's kind of uncertain, I would say inside linebacker. Obviously, I expect big things from Greenlaw. Like I'm not expecting him to um, I'm expecting him to be a big part of this defense. I'm expecting him to be a good communicator. I'm expecting him to be an insane middle of field presence because the 49ers fans, if you go on their Reddit, their Twitter, they said that they were an entirely different team with Greenlaw on and off the field. And that was playing right next to Fred Warner. So Greenlaw, a lot of the rumors of why he wanted to come to Denver, a lot of people are saying that he wanted the chance to be the one. So, I mean, if he wants the chance to be the one, then I think he's going to
He's,
show out. I think he's going to ball out.
he's got
Yeah.
that chance.
Oh, yeah. And I think, with the surrounding talent around him, like him wearing the green dot, I think the sky's the limit for him. Obviously, once again, he's still not a full-fledged guarantee, but I think he'll be a stud here.
Yeah. No doubt. No, I mean you've got to take into account the injury history. I think my big thing is I'm really happy that we got him a year removed from that injury, right? And we'll see how it ultimately pans out. I mean, he is an undersized backer. So when you think about an undersized linebacker, someone that gets quite a bit of wear and tear on the tires, it could be a problem, but nonetheless, I think we hit it. I think we struck a gold mine with him, man. I cannot wait to see Dre Greenlaw, and I feel like we're gonna do a good job of managing his reps, managing what it is that he does after his more recent quad pull, and I think we should have him for a majority of the season for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. And I was looking, and it says phenomenal decision by truly aiming to be a linebacker. One got a prior front office with the one true weakness. Yes, 100%. Good point here, Andy. And my favorite thing about Greenlaw is I looked back at one of my videos from February where I was looking at my defensive big board, and Greenlaw was number one. I was like, if there's any guy available in this free agent class that I think we need more than anybody else, I said it was Drake Greenlaw. And guess what? We got him. And I was
I
so
know,
pumped that
I know.
we got him. I know you were too. I
Yeah,
know you were too.
yeah, no doubt, man. I was blown away by it, and Hufanga was someone that I was super high on, and I couldn't believe that we ended up actually paying more for him than Greenlaw, because I
Yeah.
was like, man, we're gonna be able to get him for a cheap price, but the crazy awesome thing about it is the fact that we got him at such a legitimate rate. We got like both these guys really, if you look at their contracts, they're 1 year deals. Um, like you can move on from them after the season if you need to. Now, obviously, you hope that you don't need to, but that helps. Like the
Oh
fact that
yeah.
that's a part of it is a big piece to it too.
Yeah, I don't know how the front office was able to sweet talk them into taking such team friendly deals. Like I remember you were on the Hufanga train during the like lead up to free agency, and like he was somebody who kind of slipped my mind. I was like, you know what? Like I don't know. He was just somebody who I think kind of took a backseat to like the Javon Holland. I thought Javon Holland I was not really a big fan of paying him what I thought he was going to get. I know a lot of people were talking about Merrick from the Raiders or whatever, but I was really, really happy that we got Green Line, Hufanga, and Ingram. Like that haul literally fixed our big liabilities on the defensive side of the ball. What will the Broncos do with Frank Crum? He also was hurt a lot. I this is an interesting
Yeah,
comment. Do you have any thoughts on this?
I do. I have a lot of thoughts on it. I think Frank Crum is destined and primed to be. He's that developmental tackle that we haven't had, that a lot of Bronco fans have been craving to want to have, as somebody that can play. Like he can be the future at right tackle. He can be the future at left. He is hurt a lot too. I don't I don't really agree with that. I mean, in his college career, he's played in 50 plus games, I think it was. He started 48 of those games, and the reason that, like, I actually don't think he missed a game in college, to be honest with you. And I could be wrong on that, so I'm gonna go and try to see if I have any of that wrong. But if he did, he missed very minimal amounts of time. He's someone where you got to look at it and say, man, he is such a, like, the way he was last year. He was a huge liability in pass pro, which you saw that from um, Wattenberg in his rookie season. But he is borderline, like, and this is not just my thoughts on it. I mean, Andy would know more, but this is what I heard from the people in the coaching staff saying he is borderline elite as a run blocker already.
Mm.
So you allow for him to develop and get stronger and continue to, work on his technique as a pass protector. I think Frank Crum has got a really bright future on this team. I think he'll ultimately be the swing tackle on this team moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. And there's two comments I want to get here too by Andy and Richie that are kind of related on the UDFA note. Look out for Xavier Truss. Yeah, yeah. I don't know much about Reed, but Xavier Truss was one of my favorites as far as the UDFAs. When I watched him against Q Robinson, I was like, wow. Like I remember I saw 2 reps where he just completely washed Q Robinson out of the play. And I was like, holy cow, how did this dude go undrafted in the SEC? It's not like he was underexposed or anything like that. Because, teams are watching SEC offensive defensive line battles all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But Richie says we have 1 or 2 other developmental tackles too. Exciting times. And yeah, I agree with this. So, when Payton was talking about how we didn't need, or when he was talking about, okay, McGlinchey, like what do you do with him? I think the fact that you have so much in your pipeline now, you don't need to do anything. Like you don't need to
No.
draft a tackle. Like there's a reason we haven't drafted a tackle since 2017. And yeah, it's been really grim the past few years, with our development. But hey, Zach Streif, you give these guys literally essentially a redshirt year with Streif, and you see what they can do. So yeah.
Yeah, no, no. I mean, I agree 1,000%. I think Kareem Reed, like Andy had talked about, has a really good chance of making the roster too, because of just how thin we are at the linebacker position. He's someone that kind of flies around. He's really fun. Xavier Truss, no doubt. I think he's one of the guys, one of the big favorites of the UDFA's, besides maybe Clay Webb to make the team. I think he's got the second highest odds right now if you're an odds maker guy. But his length and his versatility, because he also can play guard, is huge. So we are doing a really good job of developing guys on the O line, both on the interior and on the outsides. And I like it because we're doing it with guys that are solid and don't necessarily have like big upside. Like I remember when we drafted Palczewski, everyone was like, or when we signed him as an undrafted free agent, everyone was like, well, he was undrafted because he's a little bit older, but he doesn't have a lot of upside, but he started a whole shitload of games. He's a really solid dude that can come in and play right off the bat, and you saw it instantly. And so I think that you're going to see that with Xavier Truss. I think you'll see that with Clay Webb as somebody else that I talked about, and I think that Kareem Reed has a really good chance, especially if he can be an elite special teams player. He can be someone that ultimately makes this roster too, because there's going to be a lot of competition at that inside linebacker position.
Yeah, and Andy's saying here, Webb versus Forsythe for a roster spot will be one of the more intriguing positional battles of camp. I'm curious what you have to say about this because, first of all, do you mind taking the mic real quick? I got to pee really bad, but do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I do. Webb and Forsythe is going to be really good, man. I like Alex Forsythe, and you look at him as a player, you see someone that is a better run blocker than he is a pass blocker. In fact, he's a very good run blocker, but he's got a lot of issues in pass pro. And I think that's what ultimately allowed for Wattenberg to get the job, because Wattenberg is really good in run blocking, but he's not as good at pass pro. He's not as good at run blocking, but he's very good in pass pro. I think that they prioritize pass blocking over the run block. When it comes to Clay Webb, you've got someone that is he might be the best run blocking interior lineman that we have, but he also has a lot of flaws when it comes to, in pass protection. So we're going to have to see, but it is going to be a hell of a position to watch in camp when you look at those two guys, because they are both going to be fighting for arguably that 52nd, 53rd roster spot when it comes to making it. And then I think the other one will ultimately make the practice squad, but we're gonna have to see how it ends up panning out. But it is going to be a really good battle to watch, because there's a lot of opportunities for the interior guys to get playtime with injuries, or maybe at some point to be the starter if they can prove that they can be better than Wattenberg.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think is really, really flying under the radar is, what happens to, like, if something happens to Powers or Miners, like, who do you throw in next to him? Who do you throw in next to him? And also, I felt like we were better at run blocking this year with Forsythe than Wattenberg. I felt like we were better as a team, run blocking. I remember Forsythe was the starting center in the Saints game, and I felt like we did a lot better run blocking there. But there were a few more things that, I think Clay Webb makes the team. Yeah, I agree. The question with Webb
I think. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, the question with Webb is, can he learn pass pro quickly, overtake, and could he overtake the center one spot? I don't see any of these dudes overtaking the center one spot.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't think for this year. But it'll be. But I mean, you never know. It'll be interesting, because I think, like I said, I think Wattenberg. Like, here's the thing I look at with Wattenberg. What's crazy about him? Like, do I think we can upgrade from him? Sure, but dude, at least as much as I can remember when I was like really paying attention to like scouting guys and looking at player development, I don't remember a lineman that made so much progress from year one to year two like Luke Wattenberg did. Like, I remember when he was a rookie, he was getting absolutely bulldozed and he was on his ass all the time. Like, literally all the time. It was absolutely it was awful to watch. And then in his second season, in Sean Payton's first year when he came here, he looked a lot better in preseason. And in training camp, you heard some things like he looks solid. He's not nearly like as shitty as he used to be. Still didn't end up playing. And then he ends up being a starter, like a starting caliber center. So when I look at it like that, I'm like, man, he can still get so much better. Like, there's still room for him to grow. So I think it's going to be really hard to overtake him as the center one. I'm assuming you probably agree with that.
Yeah, I agree. Like, once again, just what he was able to provide this past year. Like, I remember seeing all these Broncos fans saying, all right, we can upgrade our center position. And I didn't really agree with that. I know you said we could upgrade, but like, all right, so if we upgrade with Wattenberg, then whoever we upgrade with should be no worse than the third or fourth best pass blocking center in the NFL, which is what Wattenberg was this past year. And he did have his low points. I remember that he kind of got his butt whooped by DeForest Buckner on a pass blocking rep, but I mean, it's not that big of a red flag to get beat by an elite player. That's why they're elite. But no, I was watching some Luke Wattenberg from like 3 years ago just to reminisce on what was going on. And oh my God, I remember seeing Dalton Reisner just absolutely lay into the dude on the field because I saw some of the worst pass blocking reps I had literally ever seen from an offensive lineman. Granted, you can say whatever you want about Hackett coached offense. Russell Wilson is your quarterback. I don't even remember who our offensive line coach was that year, but it was disastrous, and he got fired by Rosberg when he took over. But yeah, no, the offensive line was just in shambles. And then this is the magic of Streif. This is the magic of having a guy like Zach Streif. Like, didn't Cushenberry also get a really, really slow start to his tenure? And everybody was like, this dude's fucking terrible. And then he ends up being really, really good. So yeah. And, center is a position that takes time. It takes time unless you're like I don't know, Creed Humphrey, coming in and being as good as he was right off the bat. That's pretty rare in the NFL nowadays. Yeah. So it's a position that takes time. It's a very mentally taxing position too. It's kind of like linebacker where you don't really see dudes coming to their own in like year 3, year 4, and that.
Yep. I did want to highlight, I think Jeremy Demon had Kodiak and Markey have arrived to debate This is a good one. I like it. So, what are your thoughts on Estime?
I haven't said this a lot. I'm curious how this came up because I haven't said this a lot on my channel. So maybe you're just a true Kodiak diehard, which appreciate you very much if you are. But I remember saying that in my draft recap video, I remember being pretty disappointed that they didn't really that they're putting a lot of eggs into the Estime basket. The reason I say that is because I felt like Estime played decently well last year, at least decently well enough to where I would have never put Javonte Williams on the field for anything other than pass blocking or whatever. But to be completely honest, like with Audric Estime, I thought he showed good vision. I thought he did a lot of decent things, but man, there was just something behind the scenes that just it's just like, man, the fact that he was deactivated for a playoff game in favor of a dude who had not played since week 4 and was coming off a spinal injury. And the fact that Bidet wasn't even our lead back, the fact that they gave him they gave Bidet like 3 or 4 touches in that whole game. I'm like, at that point, Bidet should have been your lead back. If you're going to do something like that, you got to do that. But I felt like something was going on last year. I didn't think he had really that bad of a fumbling problem. Like, I know a lot of people early on were, he put the rock on the ground, whatever. But as the year progressed, like, I don't remember him putting the rock on the ground at the back half of the year, which is theoretically when Estime should have taken over. Like, I remember the Chiefs game. I was like, all right, this dude's our lead back for the rest of the year. He didn't fumble after that. And then I was like, why are we not using this dude more? And yeah, overall, I just think that not enough is being made of the benching, to be completely honest. I felt like there was something behind the scenes that we clearly didn't see. Yes, Sean Payton is relatively conservative with rookies, assuming he doesn't have to play them. I mean, obviously, if some dude's really that dude, he'll, like Kamara or Bo Nix that he's coached, he will give them the chance to show what they are. Yeah. But once again, I'm a little disappointed that they are putting this many chips into the Estime basket.
Yeah, I mean, the whole benching thing, it's a really good point. I know I've addressed it a couple of times on my channel. I think for me, I look at it like it's tough because it is a new season. I think you trust that Sean Payton's going to look at it like it's a new season. And when you look at what they were probably thinking in the game plan, they were probably thinking to themselves like, listen, Estime is not going to give us a better rushing attack necessarily right off of the bat. Like, you can't clearly say he's going to give us a better rushing attack than Bidet, but they were probably worried like, we're going to have to just rely that Javonte Williams and Jaleel McLaughlin can get our run game going somehow, some way. And we just don't need somebody to like fuck up and put the ball on the turf. I think that's ultimately what went into it with Estime, but I'm extremely optimistic about him. And this could easily be something that backfires on me. But because I just feel like, man, the guy's 20 years old. He showed a lot of really good traits in college. The fact that he doesn't have to be, I think him getting that year of experience under his belt was really good. if he was drafted this upcoming draft, this year with that crazy running back draft that he would have been, he still would have been the youngest running back of any of them.
Wow, that's
And
crazy.
so, that in and of itself is really telling. I like the burst. Like I like a lot of the vision that I had seen. I did an entire film review video on Estime. So there's some things that I'm like, man, I don't get it. Like, okay, is he going to be an elite running back, or do I think he's going to be the RB1 for this team? No, but as an RB2 complement to RJ Harvey, I think he can be really, really good. But what really does kill me is the fact that we took him in the draft before Tyrone Tracy, whom I definitely loved coming out of Purdue.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, that's painful.
But I was like, you know what? I'll take it. Like, there's some things about Estime that I really liked. Like, everyone's always talking, but he's a 4.7 guy, blah, blah, blah. He had a faster 10-yard split than Troy Franklin, and then a lot of these running backs in this draft did. He's a guy that can get to speed quickly. He's built like a tank. I'm all about it, man. I think Estime is going to have a solid year. I'm looking forward to him. The biggest thing for him is, can he develop into a pass protector like I think that he can? Because people forget that Javonte Williams, obviously before his injury, was a phenomenal running back. He was never really known to be a good pass protector until, his 4th year in the league. That's when he was like, oh, because they even signed Samaje Perine because they didn't trust in his ability to pass pro. So he learned that skill. It's a very learnable skill. And that's going to be the thing that keeps him on the field and gives him the opportunities. But I'm definitely pretty optimistic about Estime. I think he's going to have a good season.
Yeah, see, my thing with Estime is I'm not sold on the talent. Like, I remember every week this past year, like in November, December, I was like, all right, this week is an Estime week. This is the week where Javonte Williams finally gets pushed to the shadow realm and we elevate Blake Watson, or we, do whatever. And it just seemed like that never came. And it just seemed like the coaching staff, despite the fact that Javonte Williams, I mean, the efficiency metrics were brutal. Like, without looking, he was probably bottom 3 in the league as far as running backs, this past year. I was never not sold on Estime the talent. I liked a lot of what I saw. And you know what? I saw a lot of similar things that you did when you were doing your film review about him. I watched him about a month ago and I was like, this dude looks pretty good. Like, I just didn't get why he didn't get more of the load. And I think when players like that don't entirely have the trust of the coaching staff, like, it's just really, really tough. And once again, he's a young player. Like, I'm pretty sure he's 2 or 3 years younger than even me, which is really saying something. But yeah, I think assuming all goes well for Estime, I think he's exactly what this offense needs. I think to have a Thunder and Lightning, like, I was really excited when we took him because I really wanted to see what a power back looked like on the Broncos, because that's something we haven't had in a while. Feels like that was something that we hadn't had in a while. So yeah. And, I just really was excited about the idea of having like a chain mover, like a chain moving back. And it just didn't materialize the rookie year, even though it felt like it was there for the taking. But this is why I go back to the Sean Payton thing. Like, I think Sean Payton, a lot of the blame for why the rushing attack was so bad this year relies with him. 1 week Estime would look good, and then he just wouldn't get the opportunities that he needed to,
It was weird.
Yeah, we just didn't give Estime the opportunities that he needed to develop and come into his own and get the hot hand and really, really get going. Because I felt like down the stretch, he should have been our lead back, like, to be completely honest. I just really was not a fan of what Javonte had shown. I liked what Jalil had shown, but I still think that Estime ran with the best vision on the team last year. Like, that's just what I think. And, there were some veteran moves that Estime did. Like, I remember there was this one play against the Saints where he used our center as like leverage to like get away from the linebacker, and he completely beat Demario Davis, like a 15-year NFL
it was
veteran.
Sick. It was fucking sick.
Yeah, it was sick. And the fact that he was doing that at a ripe age of 21, 22 years old, I'm like, why did he not take over? That's my thing. Yeah. And I felt like that. I feel like there's something in the building that we are not seeing. Once again, I am not sold on Estime the talent, but they might just not fully trust him, with the playbook. I forget where I heard it, but maybe it was some dude in my comments being like, I heard they don't entirely trust him within the playbook. I don't know what source that came from. Very well possible. I'm not going to, look too much into it, but yeah.
No, it could be. I mean, that could be the case, but that's my thing is like, that's a fixable, like unless he's like, unless it's a personal thing with him, like he doesn't love football or whatever it might be, like his motivation's not there, like that's separate. That's something that we can't predict, right? But like if he's someone that's really bought in and is just trying to learn the playbook and figure it out and get better, like you expect for him to take a massive leap going into year two. And he's still 21. He's 21 years old.
God, I'm 3 years older than him, man.
Yeah. Dude was born September 6th, 2003. It is fucking depressing to think about that. And he's built like a freaking unit. But yeah, I mean, like I said, there's a lot of things that I like. I think the fumble issues are very overblown. I mean, he had 2 fumbles and 76 carries. It's bad, but it's not like, and I think it played a big role in, like, he was definitely thinking about it. He certainly just wanted to make sure he didn't keep the ball on the ground. He was running with 2 hands a lot of the
Yeah, I
times.
remember when he would always run like this, and it really hampered his ability.
For sure. So if he can just get over that and just start to play a little bit more free, I think he's going to be a really solid complementary running back. And that's the key. You're not relying on him to be RB1 or be the guy that you run the train through. If you need to for a couple of games, maybe. But for him to just know his role going into the year and make the most out of the opportunities that you give him, I think he's going to be somebody that can do pretty well in that role.
Yeah, I agree. And I also agree that the fumble issues were overblown. I remember he fumbled in his first NFL carry where he tried to jump over the entire offensive line, and he ended up getting hurt on that play too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they said he did. I mean, he had one more carry after that, and that's what looked like took him out, but I think he got injured on the first one,
yeah. And then I think the second fumble was like when we were up like 26-10 against the Saints, I think. But, had we been able to convert on our field goal attempt against the Chiefs in Arrowhead, Estime was the lead back for that game. Estime was the lead ball carrier, and he was the lead back for that game. So that would have been our most exhilarating win in years. Yo, what's up, Hydramo? Oh, we're talking about Estime. And Mark is really optimistic about Estime. I'm erring on the side of caution when it comes to Estime, but I'm still rather optimistic. But yeah, that would have been our most exhilarating win in years. And the fact that we did not use them for the rest of the year was like, what the hell, man? And I'm just going to go back. I don't want to keep repeating the same things about Estime, but, I do want to repeat the thing I said where Sean Payton is not blameless for the way this running attack was constructed last year. It felt like he did not give anybody the carries that they needed to really get going. It felt like too many times on 4th and 1, we'd run like HB toss or whatever. It just felt like that our short yardage game in general just was not good enough schematically. Hydramo says he needs to be moved off from like Troutman. Holy cow.
I think and here's some food for thought. Obviously, it was such a small sample size with Estime with 76 carries. But in those 76 carries, he had 13 missed tackles forced. And from a percentage standpoint, that would put him in the elite category in the NFL. That would put him up with the Saquon Barkleys, the Josh Jacobs. Like he was up there. And so something to think about there. Like I said, small sample size, but 13 missed tackles forced, man, on 76 attempts is pretty damn good. And what I am going to do is I'm going to see how many Javonte Williams must have had last year. Like I said, you're not comparing to somebody, it's like, it's not like, you're setting a super high bar, but when you look at Javonte Williams, he had 23 missed tackles forced with more than double the amount of carries, actually quite a bit more than double. And I guess he had 6 of them against Las Vegas in the first game and 5 against the Jets. That's pretty surprising.
That is really surprising.
He had 11 of his 23 missed tackles forced in 2 games.
Yeah, and I don't
Other
understand.
than that, it was dog balls.
Yeah, I don't understand what happened in between those weeks, and I don't know. Either way, Richie brings up a good point. At what point in the season were they? As far as I think he's talking about Estime. If you can pull up his like game by game.
His missed tackles forced.
Yeah.
It's funny. What I remember, I'll pull it up here. Yeah, it was pretty balanced. Like he had, Here, I mean, am I able to share my screen? I guess.
Wait,
Yes, I
let me
can.
see. Let me see. I don't know if
Yeah,
you're able to.
I can hear. Yeah,
All right,
I
here we go.
think it's
Add to
letting me.
stage. Here we go.
There you go. So if you look at it, there's going to be this middle category, right here where my cursor is. So,
Wow,
oops.
that's really spread out, like all things
Yeah.
considered.
So Hold on. So in week 1, it was 0. It was God, what the hell? Oh yeah, week 6. So 1 in his first game back in week 6, 2 and 7, 2 and 9, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and 2. So yeah, it was pretty spread out. It wasn't so consolidated like it was with Javonte, but I mean, yeah, it's like I said, it's out there. And dude, I saw it. I mean, the guy's got a, from what I've seen, man, he's got really good vision. He's got really
Yeah,
good vision, and especially second level vision. Like he looks to make like he trusts his linemen in terms of the initial level of blocks, and he's looking to make the dude on the second level miss pretty consistently. So
yeah. Peyton here says people are hating on RJ Harvey. I have really not seen anybody hate on RJ Harvey. What is your opinion on that? Because me personally, I really like him. I mean, I really like him too. I think he's going to take over our team. Um, as far as the hating, maybe it's because he's an older rookie, but if you can terrorize the NFL for like 4 or 5 years, that's more than enough for me. Um,
especially at
yeah,
running back.
yeah, exactly. But what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of RJ Harvey hate, um, to be honest. And I think anybody that's hating is just probably a hater of the Broncos. The dude fits. Like for me, man, when you saw the way that Sean Payton was talking about him, he's kind of salivating over the guy, and they obviously prioritized him high enough to make him a second round pick. I think that shows enough. And a lot of really good reports came out saying that like once they realized they weren't going to be able to get Ashton Genty, they zeroed in on Harvey as the second guy, and they probably look at things like missed tackles forced, like elusive ratings, and ways for somebody to be able to, just make dudes miss, but not just from juking them out of their boots, but running through tackles. He does that. The dude is built like an absolute unit. I think he's gonna be super special in this offense, man.
Yeah, I agree. So I want to get to this comment real quick by Richie. I just want to clarify something. Estime was not benched in week 18. Since the NFL now, since every team plays 17 games now, it's 17 games plus 1 bye week. So week 18 was our Kansas City game. The game where we clinched the playoff spot and won 38-0. Wild card round, yeah, he was benched, but I just want to clarify that. So Sean Payton won't ever. I do not. This is just not true at all. Like I think you and I are gonna really, really like just not agree with this one at all. So Hydramo, if you look at coaches who have targeted the running back position the most historically, Sean Payton is up there. Since 2010, he has never been outside the top 5 as far as RB target share. So I think part of the issue is that we didn't really have a dude over the past 2 years who could really take over and really be used as a super weapon in that regard. But he wants to pass and scheme too much. You might have to clarify this, but uh, I don't agree with this at all. But I'm curious to hear your take, Hydramo, and I want to hear what you have to say about this, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need a little bit more clarity, right? Like, won't ever let a running back get going in his offense,
Yeah,
meaning
like
from a rushing
Kamara,
standpoint.
like Kamara,
Um,
like Bush, like whatever.
yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean, it looks at how it looks like. I think if you can say he wants a running back to be able to pass and catch the ball and be able to touch the ball 20 times a game in terms of rushes and receiving, that's exactly what Sean Payton wants to do. Like he wants to involve the running back, but he wants to involve him in both. You talk about Mark Ingram, you talk about Reggie Bush, Alvin Kamara. Um, oh man, who else? Who else? He had a couple other guys too in the time period. Pierre Thomas early on.
mhm.
That these guys were super productive. Darren Sproles, that he really liked, that he made the most out of in those situations. And I mean, yeah, I think from 2016 to 2020, and you guys can look at this up if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I remember this. In those 14 years, his offense was ranked in the top 10 in rushing 14 times.
Yeah.
So basically every single year.
Yeah.
At least from a yards per game standpoint, it might have been, or from an actual league rank. So yeah, Sean Payton wants to get his running backs cooking. The thing about it is, he expects for his running backs to be able to be very good in the pass game, because he doesn't want to be able to tip his hand like he did every single time Julian McLaughlin was on the field. You knew Julian McLaughlin was going to get it. It's
Yeah.
nobody's fault, but he doesn't want that. Like, he's trying to avoid that from happening. And so you get yourself a running back that can be a threat both running and passing. It's going to open it up for everything.
Yeah. Wait. Oh, he's saying that he will never have a bell cow, which is what Estime is. He came from Notre Dame, which is a rush heavy, hand the ball off inside the tackles and wear the D down. Okay, this makes more sense. And I still like, if you're talking about, okay, from a pure rushing standpoint, maybe, because I remember Kamara was still splitting carries with Mark Ingram for a little bit. Uh, when the Saints were really, really good in 2017 and 2018. But I remember after 2018, Kamara was getting like a 70-80% snap share from the running back position. Now, I don't know exactly I don't know exactly how many of those were rushes in general. But I mean, my thing is, like, we don't need to have like a between the tackles grinder bell cow, because honestly, I feel like that tips our hand more than anything else.
Yeah.
Rush heavy, hand the ball off inside the tackles, wear the D down. I will say, I think the deployment will be much smarter this upcoming year. Like, I do think Estime is going to be like the fourth quarter, like close the game out sort of dude. But okay, all right. I even though we got more clarity, I still don't entirely agree with this. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, listen, yes, for sure, I would say he will never have a bell cow, right? To say that, you know, I think that makes my point as to why I'm very optimistic about the way in which Audric Esme can be used, right? Because when you look at Audric Esme in college, it was a little bit different than with someone like Caleb Johnson that I used this year. Even though I see a lot of similarities, which is why I wasn't super high on Caleb Johnson, is he's someone that I felt like you had to give him a lot of carries for him to get going. You didn't see that as much though with Estime in college, but even more importantly in the NFL, he seemed to. It didn't seem like he was affected by having minimal amounts of opportunities. Like in the games where he started to get a little bit more carries, you started to see him get going a little bit. But that's why I'm optimistic about Estime, is because I think with Estime, the cool thing is that you're not needing for him to be the main guy. You just need him to be a complement and make the most out of those carries. And I think that he's going to be able to do that. And same thing with Harvey. So even though he's right in a sense of Sean Payton doesn't necessarily have a bell cow, it kind of bodes well for him because you have some guys that have some unknowns about them. Obviously, we've never seen RG Harvey in the NFL. Obviously, we saw a very limited sample size with Estime. So it makes it easier when you're like, hey, we're just going to take as much off of your shoulders and figure out what you guys do best to be able to get it going. So I trust Sean Payton to be able to figure it out. I really do. I mean, like I said, in his 15 seasons that he coached the Saints, he had a top 10 rushing offense in 14 of those years. I don't expect for it to continue to be as bad as it has been here moving forward.
Yeah, and first of all, Richie is going to say, got to head out, guys, 11 Eastern time. Hope you have an
Yeah.
amazing day
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, so Hydramo also says, look at the carries. They'll never have more than 13 or 14 carries. That's how playoff football is won. Okay, I get what you're saying with this, but like, we don't need to do like full on between the tackles, grind the clock in playoff football. Like, yes, is playoff football more gritty? Sure. But like, we don't need a singular we don't need a singular dude to take the bulk of the work. And Peyton's actually, once again, I feel like he deploys what he has in his running back room. Now, if Kamara is the only guy in his backfield, then Kamara is the only guy in his backfield and he's never going to come out. But assuming Estime gets the trust of this coaching staff, then yeah.
I mean, but even with Kamara, bro, like I don't think he ever had a season where he took more than 65% of the running back snaps. Like, you're always going to have people mess up because it's about quality, I think, with him than it is about quantity.
Yeah.
And like I said,
Yeah.
It's around that number.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, boys. I'm more worried about playoffs since I think that's the floor of this team. I mean, yeah. I mean, we got to be looking ahead to it. What are your thoughts? Because we're already talking about how to deploy our offense for the playoff game. Then, yeah.
I mean, my thing is like I don't necessarily know what you're like worried about. I always look at it like, sure, we made the playoffs last year. That does not pencil us in to make the playoffs this year. You still have to be able to, you still got to be a really good team, and you still got to earn your playoff spot, which I expect for this team to do. But ultimately, it's a quarterback-driven league, right? I mean, I'll be the first person to admit it. I loved what the Buffalo Bills did last year when they got rid of Stephon Diggs. Right, they started to go young at the receiver position, and they said, you know what, we're going to put more on our quarterback's plate when it comes to passing, but we are going to prioritize running the ball with James Cook and the rest of the guys there. And at times they looked like they had a really elite rushing offense, and it boded well for them in the playoffs. But at the end of the day, guys are going to have to make plays. Your quarterback's going to have to make plays, and that's what it's going to have to come down to. So that's why the development and the step that Bo Nix takes this upcoming season is always going to be the most important. But from what I anticipate this year, man, if we're just like 10% better, if we're 10% better, that's still a travesty because we were awful last year. But if we're 10% better, I still think even that would be good enough to give us a chance to win in the playoffs. And that's saying something because you have to take into consideration the leap that Bo Nix is going to take and this offense as a whole. And that in and of itself is going to help the rush game as well.
Bro, you got me cackling. Like, if we were 10% better, I would be so mad.
Yeah, we'd be mad, but like, how realistic is that? Like, if somebody's like, are you going to be 10? You're like, damn, we're still going to suck ass at running. But like shit, we're still.
I mean, I want to give a shout out to Elle real quick. Shout out to my very good friend Elle for tuning in. Hope you're enjoying. But I mean, yeah, if we're 10% better on the ground this past year after using a second round pick on a running back, I'd be really upset. But I think that issue will get mitigated by what else we added, like with our tight ends, with our like with Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram is going to be such a focal piece of this offense because he doesn't tip our hand. Like, defenses actually have to respect him. Like, even though Troutman, Adkins, I was going to say Kroll, but not him, made some big catches this past year and like some cool touchdown catches this past year, then yeah, that was pretty cool and whatnot. But ultimately, you didn't have to respect those. Like, the defense did not have to respect those dudes at all. And the fact that you're able to use Evan Ingram as like a seventh blocker type dude who can actually be dynamic over the middle of the field. Like, I was watching a play when I was doing my Evan Ingram video, or I was doing something about Evan Ingram this past week, and I thought Evan Ingram just sift through a bunch of defenders and find a soft spot within the zone. I'm like, nobody we had on this team was able to do that this past year, especially from the tight end position.
Yeah, I think, man, I can't wait to watch him play. I can't wait to watch him in this offense.
Me too.
I can't.
Because I think
I was just doing some quick math too. Sorry, so I was a little bit distracted.
No, you're good. You're good.
If we got 10% better, we would be 12th in the NFL in rushing.
Honestly, very doable.
It is. But you also have to take into account that Bo Nix ran a lot more than you probably want.
Yeah,
but man, there's so much. Like, Pat Bryant. I'm so excited to watch Pat Bryant. I'm so excited to see Evan Ingram. I truly believe that. And I'm a little bit less pessimistic about Evan Ingram because of the injury history. I'm trying to like just pray that he really does stay healthy for the season. But I think Pat Bryant is going to be really, really special. I do.
Yeah. And, like I said, a lot of the issues that we had, I think we are going to be more of a possession-oriented team. And I think Hydromo taps into this as well. Now you know where I'm going. We got dog walked by Buffalo. Imagine if the Broncos were like that, line up 20 times knowing they're going to run the ball and still let us get 6 yards. Yeah, this is the way the modern NFL is trending. As defenses get lighter, like, it's more of a possession-oriented game where it's like, all right, you're going to get the ball for, 9 or 10 possessions a game. see what you can do with it. Because of this whole era of playing too high, because of this whole era of, you don't want teams to beat you with speed, because of this whole era where offense is kind of behind the eight ball as far as passing and defenses have really caught up. Like, yeah, that's kind of the era we're headed in as far as, this. And running the football is a timeless strategy. Running the football is proven to be a timeless strategy over and over again. But yeah, this would be my wet dream, honestly. Honestly, there's a reason that in the NCAA video game, I never, ever, ever throw the ball. It's because serious teams don't throw on all four downs anymore. You look at the teams that throw on all four downs, you get teams like the Bengals that are just like, it's because they have to. It's because they have to and whatnot. And last year was just absolute comedy from Cincinnati in general. But yeah, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this because, like I said, the NFL's shifting towards a more possession-oriented league. And, if we were able to run the ball at this efficiency, like how bricked up would you be?
I mean, I'd be unbelievably bricked up, obviously. That would be incredible. Here's what people, I think, tend to forget about the playoff game because it's something like anytime, it was such an exciting season. I think a lot of us expected us to probably not win that game, so we erased it from our minds. But guys, we were not just getting rushed on for 6+ yards until the second half of that game because our defense was absolutely exhausted. And it's because the offense couldn't get anything going. And it's mainly because we kept having key drop. I rewatched the game 3 times. We had so many drops on third down that would have been an easy first down to keep the drive going. Dudes, the time of possession in that game, they had the ball for 41 out of the 60 minutes.
That's terrible. That's terrible.
I don't give a shit if you're stacking the box with 10 defenders. Eventually, your defense is just going to give up. It's going to pop off. The first half of that game, it was 14-3 at half. It should have been 14-6. It was a close game, man. Like, we were in that ball game until that crazy catch that, what was it, Johnson?
Ty Johnson, the running back?
Yeah. Ty Johnson had in the end zone. Like, it was not that far-fetched of a game for us to get out of. Now, obviously, running the ball would have helped, but Bo Nix played super well. Vele had a terrible drop. Franklin had a terrible drop. Sutton had a terrible drop. There was Lucas Kroll had a terrible drop. Every single one of those drops were on third down. They were wide open. They got hit right in the hands. It was actually crazy. And to think, okay, let's just say you get a little bit of something going. You're going to be able to control the clock, but more importantly, you're giving your defense a little bit of a break. It was 31-7. They were clearly a better team than we were. So I'm not trying to sit there and be like, we were just as good as the Bills. Like, no doubt about it. They were a better team. Mm-hmm. But it was a lot closer than I think people remember. And we ended up getting trounced, on the rush game numbers. It ended up being 210-79 as I'm looking at it now. But a majority of those was because in the second half, our defense was fucking sick and tired of being on the field. 41 minutes of time of possession is insanity.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. And unfortunately, we couldn't get off the field because, like I said, it wasn't just because the D-line was getting run over. Like, were they having their best day? No, absolutely not. They were not playing well at all. But like I said, the Bartons, the Stranads, I remember Locke giving up, probably 4 or 5 passes over the middle of the field. I was like, that's just terrible, man.
Yep.
I remember that was the last game of the year. And I was like, I really hope I don't see this guy start next year. Yeah, it was 14-10 at half.
And who was our leading rusher of that game?
Probably Nix.
It was Bo Nix by a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know, without even looking or thinking about it too hard, I was like, yeah, it's probably Nix.
Yeah.
It was 14-10 at half, and Lutz should have made that field goal.
Yeah, 14-10. Right? Sorry, I said 14-3 like an idiot. It was 14-10. It should have been 14-13.
Yeah. I was about to say, how could you forget that bomb we had on the first drive of the game?
I know. That was what an amazing way to start the game.
But, oh my God. That and the Chris Abenstrain pick. Oh my God. Those were the 2 plays last year where I screamed probably 100 decibels.
Mm-hmm. It was off the chain, but like that's kind of my thing is it's like, man, like it's always, dude, it's a couple of plays every game where you look at it and you said, like, all right, if the receivers catch the ball on those third downs versus drop them, it doesn't mean that we're scoring 7 points on that drive. But it's like, well, what if? And how does it affect the outcome for when the defense comes back out on the field too? So there's just so many nuances, and that's why football is such a great game.
Yeah. Spoomster now says, should I fly out to Cali to watch the Chargers with my dad or go on a road trip with my bro to see the Colts? Like, I'm going to be honest, man. I mean, obviously, it's your personal life. Do whatever you want. Personally, I don't think a road trip to Indianapolis would be that exciting to me. And second of all, we're going to need you. We're going to need Broncos country in SoFi Stadium this upcoming year. So that's my personal. If you have to decide between one, I would say go fly out with your dad. Enjoy SoCal. I think it's a lot more enjoyable than Indianapolis, to be completely honest. So, and
yeah.
Yeah, we're going to need you in Broncos country. We're going to need you in the stands for that game. We're going to need you to bring the home field advantage.
Yeah, I would say for me, man, I would say always choose a trip with your father than your brother. You know what I mean? That's kind of my take on it, and that's my life take. Is like, you're gonna have more time. I mean, God willing, you have more time on this earth with your brother remaining than you do with your dad. That's the typical way life works. So go enjoy as much of that time with your dad as you can, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And Locke gave Ty Johnson that out of bounds touchdown. Crazy thing is the Broncos could have been up 10-7.5. I didn't think Johnson was in bounds. So just thinking back to that play, I remember that was absolutely crazy, And honestly, even as a big PJ Locke hater, I can't even really hate on that play that much because it was like a 9-10 second play in real time. So I can't even really hate him for kind of I don't even think he fell asleep. I just think that he just kind of made a little mental lapse and, it was what it was. And Johnson made a crazy catch, so I don't want to take that away from him. But yeah.
And
so,
yeah. I feel like the real disappointing thing in that game was the pass rush was not there.
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, Zach Allen got a sack, but that was it.
Yeah, like what they really ended up, I think, focusing on big time was like it boiled down to being like, max protect, don't let their pass rush get us, and if we have time, we'll be able to beat them. That's something that Cincinnati kind of exposed in us, and yeah, I mean that's exactly what happened. But it was, I mean, there was 2 sacks total for the whole game. We got 1, they got 1, so we both did a good job protecting. Actually, we ended up getting 2 sacks, believe it or not. DJ Jones did have a sack. Zach Allen, like you said, did have a sack. They only had 1. It was Matt Milano, but yeah, it was brutal. It was a brutal game.
But I remember against Cincinnati, didn't we drop Burrow 7 times?
No,
I think we dropped. I think we dropped Burrow a lot. But like, I get what you're saying. Like, it was either it felt like it was either a big completion or a sack.
Yeah, and what I mean by that is it's not necessarily that the Bengals max protected, and even if they did, honestly, their offensive line was so dog shit. But they realized that if on those plays where they could buy themselves a little bit of time, they would be able to cook us. But yeah, Zach Allen had 3.5 sacks against the Bengals, bro.
Yeah, I remember that.
We had 7 in total. I mean, we were just getting after them.
I know. I was watching AFC North. I was watching AFC North Hard Knocks not too long ago, and that game was a cruel reminder of how it was just a cruel reminder of how that game played out. Because I remember we should have fucking won. We should have fucking won that game.
We should have went for 2.
We should have gone for 2. Okay, here's everything that should have happened. We should have gone for 2. Bo Nix should have hit Troy Franklin not once but twice in overtime. Twice. The first one.
It was also such a bad play call.
Yeah, like the first one was a complete misfire. Like, all right, you run a go route, it's a misfire, whatever. Second one, I did not like the play call at all. Like, it was a really weird like drag route, middle of field thing where like Troutman was a little bit underneath, like in the line of sight, and I don't think Troy Franklin entirely got the ball, but yeah. But that game's gonna haunt me forever. Yeah. I mean, if we beat them,
I'm just so thankful, like, because we ended up making the playoffs. It almost like it made me be like, all right, screw that game, it's over.
Yeah.
But could you imagine if that was the game that made us miss it?
Yeah.
I mean, holy shit, that would have been bad.
Yeah. You guys ever seen the footage of Bo passing up middle of field touchdown? I don't. Remind me what game this is in.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't remember that either. And I don't. I mean, if that was the case, I mean, like I said, I'm not sure which game you're talking about, but if that was the case, I would I would most likely believe that he probably just didn't see him rather than didn't trust him.
Yeah, because
Because
even
listen, say what you want about Trautman and Kroll, it's not like they just drop everything. I mean, Trautman's got good hands. His problem is getting open.
was this
He
in
had
the
he
first?
had the he had the best touchdown catch of the season.
Oh yeah, when he like extended.
He
I
just
was about to
snatched
say
that
like
shit with one hand.
I was about to say like despite the fact that our tight end room was absolutely trash last year, like we had some nice touchdowns from Troutman and Adkins. Now Kroll did fuck all. Like he did not catch a single touchdown last year. I don't remember him literally doing anything for last year, to be quite frank. But
I know that breaks my heart because I was totally on the fucking Lucas Kroll train. That's
oh
why,
yeah,
like now when I'm like hyped up about Estime, I'm like, I hope this isn't another Kroll situation, bro, because
exactly,
that was the one I did not get right last year. But
exactly. But
oh, good.
yeah. All right. Well, it is 11:10. I've been at this for 2 hours
I know,
and five
man.
minutes.
You've been a champ, bro. I
Yeah, no,
appreciate you
no,
letting me get on, man.
no. I appreciate you. Either way, I just want to say thank you all for riding with us. Oh, Bengals. All right, cool. I'll have to check that out. But I just got to say thank you to everybody. Thank you to everybody for riding with us. If you are riding for us this long on the replay too, then good golly.
Yeah, y'all dope.
Good. Yeah, y'all are
You guys
dope
are
as well.
goaded,
Or either that or you fell asleep with your TV on, but on YouTube.
which
But
we appreciate too.
yeah, Hydramo, Spoomster, L, Cab HD, Richie, you guys were absolutely awesome tonight. Same with Payton and Jeremy, obviously, Paul Schaefer, so many people. Andy, you guys made this phenomenal. I could not. I wanted Derek Harmon so bad, like you, Kodiak. Yeah, of course, of course. I hope he has a great career with Pittsburgh, though. But yeah, I could not. I was too busy today to make a video during the day, so I figured coming on here live after Altitude Adjustment had aired would be the next best thing. So I hope you guys enjoyed. And the handsome man underneath me right here, Mr. Glasses, as Richie
Handsome.
put him.
Mr. Glasses, is that what he called me?
Yeah, I think so, or something
My
like
man.
that. Plug your stuff. What do we got to look forward to from you?
Oh, we're just gonna have a good time, man. Don't worry about me, brother. Guys, make sure I'm sure you guys are all subscribed to Kodiak because you're watching it on his channel. But show the boy some love. He's phenomenal. If you fell asleep and you ended up having this live chat on your on the TV and you woke up to it, there's no voice that you'd rather listen to waking up in the middle of the night than Kodiak's, man. What a wonderful voice that he's got. But we got a lot of things cooking, man. Obviously, I know. I'm give a little bit of a tease, but me, Kodiak, and some of the guys, that's all I'm going to say, are working on putting on a weekly show. We're going to talk about, what more information of that will come soon, but I'm going to be really focusing on the state of the union for the Broncos and breaking down every positional group. We started off today with the wide receivers, really because Demaryius Thomas got inducted to the Ring of Fame, so I wanted to show DT some love. Long live DT. So we talked about the receiver room, which is a very complicated and confusing room, but we're going to be going down that rabbit hole, man, and talking about whatever breaking news there is, if any, having a good time, and looking forward to doing it with all of you all in the chat and some of my really good friends that I'd met in the YouTube community, in Kodiak and in David Talks Broncos and in Jeremy and Strez and Denver Trav and Mile High Mario, all the guys that are in the Discord, man. You guys all make it great, so I appreciate y'all. And yeah, what you got cooking, man? You got anything going on?
Well, obviously, tomorrow's a big day for us in Broncos country. First time the media will be able to attend OTAs, so I will do a huge recap on that tomorrow. And yeah, as far as what's cooking for the rest of the offseason, we'll see where it takes us. But yeah, we'll tease. I'm really excited about what me and Marky got working behind the scenes for y'all. So yeah. All right, guys, that does it for us. Leave a like if you enjoy, subscribe if you're not already, and we will see you guys next time.
Peace.
Peace.